to the Interlude with Drew.
What's up, everybody? This is Andrew McCain. Welcome to another episode of the Interlude with Drew. I have a very special guest here today. You know him probably just by face. You've heard his music, and God has been using him in a mighty special way. This is James Wilson, my brother. Thank you so much for being a part of this interview, this episode today. How's everything going with you, man?
Drew, what's up, man? I'm honored to be on the podcast, man. And man, everything's been going great. It's been a really cool season of life. Getting married here pretty soon.
Yes, sir. Congrats
and,
again, man.
Thank you, man. And so yeah, bro, it's been great, man. I can't complain. God's been incredibly kind to me, for sure.
Praise God. Praise God. So I wanted to ask you, how was 2020 for you? It was a strange, unexpected year for all of us, but how was it particularly for you?
Man, it was interesting. I think for everyone, it was interesting. But for me, I had been on staff at Living Hope Church in Maryland for I think 6.5 years, and made the decision to step out on the road full time, ministering. And so it was, that was kind of like the wrong, if you're going to pick a year to step out and start traveling full time, 2020 probably would not have been the year. But man, God was faithful. I was able to still do ministry, and still make it. God just, for me, man, it just seemed like God blessed me more in 2020 than maybe I had ever been blessed before. And I know that probably isn't the case for everyone. But man, I'm really grateful for what God just did and how God kept me, in 2020. And so yeah, man, it was a cool year. It was a different year. Definitely was a different year. But overall, man, I can say God kept me. I didn't have want for anything. I had COVID. I didn't die. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you've had COVID and you didn't die, like, hey, man, that's a testimony, because not everyone made it out. So yeah, it was a good year. It was a good year overall for me.
That's good.
It really was.
All right. So taking it back to the beginning, you're originally from Mississippi. So what was it like growing up in the South? And when did you first kind of fall in love with music?
Man, growing up in the South was awesome. Down South, man, there is a such thing as Southern hospitality. People generally are pretty friendly and nice. And so I loved growing up in the South. Obviously, every place has its bad things about it. And I think, the South is probably, you experienced, probably like racism and stuff like that, maybe more than you would up north. At least it's not as outward as, it's not as outward up north. But overall, man, my personal life, I experienced that stuff. But man, I was really blessed to be at a great church, where people just love me. People of all different colors, creeds. We were a multicultural church in Mississippi, and so it was a great experience. And then my dad was a music minister of the church from the time I was probably 6-ish. And so, man, as far as music, I just grew up around it. My dad is an organist, a pianist, and he's kind of the trailblazer in our family. Before him, we kind of sang, but not many people played instruments. So he's kind of like the patriarch, man. And there's a whole slew of guys in our family now. I have a bunch of cousins that can all outplay me on instruments. And my dad was kind of the trailblazer for that in our family. But yeah, man, I grew up around it, very musical family. And so I'm blessed because I think you can relate to this, probably being from a musical family. A lot of times, it's better for you to catch things than it is to be taught things.
Oh,
And I just
absolutely.
caught so much by just being around it. You know, things that come natural to me, right? That are second nature to me. I just got because my dad was a musician and I was
Right.
around it, you know. So yeah, man, that's kind of my story about how I got into music.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people that are fans of James Wilson don't even realize how good you are on keys, guitar,
No,
drums, definitely drums. And what else do you
no.
play? Do you play bass as well, or?
I can dabble on bass, but and that's how I feel like, especially now, because I don't play at all anymore. Literally, the only time I play keys or drums or anything, mainly keys, is just if I'm trying to produce something. And
Mhm.
I don't throw me on a board during service. I'm not gonna be able to I'm not gonna be able to carry you there. But
I find that
yeah,
hard to
man.
believe because I mean, when I first met you, I saw you playing all these things. I was like, this guy is crazy. So I thought that's just what it was. And then next thing you know, we find out that you're like a great singer and songwriter too. So
Oh man.
that kind of leads me to my next question. When did you write your first song?
Um, I don't know the exact age, but I remember very vividly when I first kind of realized that God had given me an ability to do this. I don't know the exact age, but I was a kid. Maybe I'm just going to say maybe around
Okay.
8 or 9. And I was singing in the shower, just made up a song off the top of my head.
Hmm.
Was just worshiping, man, honestly. And my mom heard me, and she said, you know, James, you know, where'd you hear that song? I've never heard that song before. What is that? And so I just told her, I said, hey, I said, I made that, Mom, I just made that up off the top of my head. And, you know, she kind of looked at me and just was like, James, she said, son, that's a gift. She said, this is what we're gonna do. She said, we're gonna get you a notebook, we're gonna get you a pen. She said, and every time you start getting these songs in your head, she said, I want you to write them down.
Yeah.
Cause that's like everyone can't do that, you know.
Right.
And for me, I was like, oh, you know, because I like it was for me at the time, it was, you know, it was effortless. Like I wasn't trying to do anything cool or special. It was just I was just singing, you know. And so man, I'm really grateful to my parents and you know for that because had she not done that, I might have just thought it was something that everybody can do.
Right.
And
Right.
obviously a lot of people can do. And I'm not saying I'm some special anomaly and nobody else can do what I can do. I'm not saying that, but I think it's important to recognize when God gives you something, and because then you can take it and start honing it, right? And
Right.
so that's what I did, man. After then, there was a conscious, you know, I was made aware that this was something that I needed to do, and so from there, just you know, obviously I was 8. I wasn't sitting down every day writing, but there
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
seed I was planting in that moment, you know, that ultimately led me down the path I've gone down. So
That's great. So I had, we got a chance to do like the Zoom songwriting sessions last year. So I had a
yeah,
glimpse into like kind of what your process looks like. But overall, what's your general songwriting process like?
man, I mean it varies, obviously. You know, I kind of usually I give like a general template of what I do, and this is more for like what I would call maybe ballad type songwriting. This doesn't apply for every style and every type of songwriting, but it's a good kind of general rule of thumb that I kind of you know keep in the back of my mind whenever I'm writing songs. But you know, songs are to me are telling a story, right?
Right.
And when you tell a story, there always has to be a conflict and a resolution. Um, usually, not always, you know. And
Yeah.
worship music can be a little different sometimes, but usually I'm trying to find that conflict in the verse. You know that you know the verse is where there's going to be conflict and turmoil and bad stuff happening, you know, if I can say it that way. And then the chorus is going to be the resolution of that. Then the bridge just kind of reemphasizes, restates the what happened in the chorus, the resolution. So that's kind of like a general idea. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of nuances to it, right? You know, you come with an idea, and usually, I think for songwriters, it's really important that you set the song up right. You know, it's like building a house. If you don't have a good foundation, the house isn't going to be viable, right? The house is going to be open to failing, right? So I think setting the foundation, like knowing where you're going to go, genre wise, knowing where you're going to go, because if not, you can get scattered. Knowing lyrically where you're going, musically what you kind of want, arrangement wise what you kind of want. So usually when I go in, I go in with a template, a song that I want it to sound like, I'm kind of thinking I want it to sound like and feel like, and all these things I'm kind of going into it with, and then just going from there. But I mean, that's the general. I could talk about it for a long time, but that's a general idea.
It definitely varies. Yeah. That's really good. So when you're writing, do you typically do it without an instrument, or are you on keys more, or guitar? What would you say you use most of the time when you're writing a song?
Yeah, I'm definitely always on an instrument, and
Okay.
I think it varies on, you know, what style I'm writing. Because I mean, I write differently whenever I'm on a guitar.
Right.
You know, it's going to be more the CCM, you know, singer songwriter, just kind of that route. Whereas if I'm on keys, it's probably going to lean a little more towards the gospel, you know, gospel route. So
Yeah.
just depending on what feel I'm going for, you know, if I'm writing like "Wait on the Lord," I wrote that on guitar.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to think of another one, like maybe like "Oh Magnify," which I mean that started out a little different than anything that I've ever done, because I actually started out that song. I'd never do this, but I started that song with music first. I typically don't do music
Oh
first.
wow.
Usually it's lyrics, but
Okay.
I started out "Oh Magnify" with that synth riff at the beginning. I was just fooling around on the, you know, in Pro Tools, and came across that sound, and that was like the first thing that I played, and then built the song out from there. But
Oh wow.
it usually, yeah, I mean it varies. It just kind of varies.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, but you have a great ability to blend gospel and CCM music. Who were your influences growing up?
I mean, the obvious one is Israel.
Yeah.
I think Israel Houghton. If you listen to my music, it's probably obvious. Okay, this guy likes Israel Houghton. Because I mean, so much of Israel stuff comes out in my music, and he's a huge influence. Ty Tribbett, I think, is really good at that. You know,
Yeah.
Ty obviously leans a little more gospel with his feel, but Ty was really good. So those are two big influences. And I'll say this too, like Israel, right? He comes by it honest, because, and it was funny. I was listening to his new album the other day, and he's just talking about how, you know, he has a white mom, but he's a black kid, but they went to like a Hispanic church growing up,
It's crazy. Yeah.
you know? So he's like, he's genuinely just a motley of a bunch of different, and I feel the same way, man. Like for a large part of my life, I was like a black kid that went to like a predominantly white church, and then eventually it kind of morphed, you know. But you know, I just had so many like my pastor was a huge Southern gospel fan, so
Okay.
I was just exposed to so much, and so, you know, by the time I was 12 and 13, I was listening to a lot of CCM stuff. So I think it just kind of comes out in my music, you know, that's kind of who I am and who I was growing up. I just had a love for all different types and styles of music. And so, you know, the way I like to say it is, man, you know, it's kind of a kingdom sound. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that any other thing isn't, but
Yeah.
I just always think it's really cool, man, whenever you can just throw a bunch of stuff together and it works. If it doesn't work, then okay. But when you can throw a bunch of genres together and, like I've always been a fan of singing, and even genres, like singing, like I love that Kirk Franklin will do like a pop record, but like
Right,
have gospel BGVs on it,
right,
or
right,
do
right.
like a hip hop or R&B record, but have like BGVs on it. Like
Yeah,
I've always loved that. Something that you think, man, like this shouldn't have like BGVs and gospel style vocals on it, but it
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Or you have somebody that's like CCM that's doing like, like doing like that's on a gospel song, but they have like CCM style vocals. Like
Right,
I don't
right.
know.
It's just
I
different.
just
Yeah,
love it. It's different. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's awesome. So you attended Urshan Bible College, right?
yeah.
So how did attending that college shape your ministry? Like what I know, I'm sure you had a whole lot of experiences there and kind of cut your teeth there. How did that shape your ministry now?
Man, that year was life changing. I would not be where I'm at. I would not be doing what I'm doing without it. There is so much that I learned. Number one, spiritually, it helped me. I grew a lot, and I was, like I said, I'm a one and done, so I was only there for a year. But spiritually, I grew a lot. Number two, I made connections there that I didn't even realize at the time were going to be what they were. Like, for instance, I met Andy Ferguson there. Andy
Okay.
played on my first record, and
Yeah.
I met Pastor Staten there. Little did I know that I would be there for 6.5 years of my life. So just the
Yeah.
relationships and connections that I made there propelled me. And then, third, last but not least, uh, I was a part of the live recording that we did there that year, which was an all original recording.
Yeah.
And man, it was so life changing because I got to see the process of a live recording. And I had been behind the scenes before. I had a song that placed on Sherry Jones Moffat's Power and Authority album whenever I was 20, 21, somewhere around there. And so it was really cool. I got to be behind the scenes for that recording, be there for all the rehearsals, and see all these monsters. So Daryl Freeman was playing,
Oh wow.
Tim Mason was playing,
Okay.
uh, Sput. I can't think of Sput's real name, but Sput
See
from
right. Robert,
See
sorry.
Right. Yeah, he was there playing. So it was just a bunch of
Wow.
monsters,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Donald Lawrence was there, Myron Butler. So I got to see them do it, but it was kind of like I got to see the process of the week, which is the template that I took ultimately. And that's what I use for my recordings, their process, how they kind of did things.
Right.
I take their exact process, and that's what I do whenever I do my recordings. But the Urshan um, recording was so important because I got to see just the entire thing from start to finish. And I learned so much about production, about playing what is right, like playing the right things to
Mm-hmm.
make a song work, right? Just a producer's mindset versus a player's mindset, right?
Right.
Just all these different things. And a lot of it again wasn't just we didn't just sit down and um just discuss this stuff, but Keith Pace, who was the dean of music or whatever you call it at the time at Urshan, had been a part of like several Marvin Sapp recordings with Aaron Lindsay.
Oh, okay.
So he had learned from the best, man. Like if you go to Sapp's, like man, the Never Would Have Made It recording, like you can see Keith in the background. He's like
Oh,
running
okay.
tracks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's like Keith had been a part of just some dope records from start to finish. He was basically, I think, Aaron Lindsay's assistant. So
Oh, okay.
he knew how this process went. So that was important because I got to watch him. And
Yeah.
so, man, it was, long story short, it was a transformational year uh, because of all of those reasons. And I wouldn't be where I'm at now without it.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so I think it had to have been like 2013 when you moved to Maryland.
Yep.
It was 2013.
Yep.
So what was that transition like, and how did you feel the call to move to Maryland? Because that's the year we left, so that's why I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, man, those were good times, man.
Yeah,
It's funny. I don't think I had heard of you guys before I got there because that year is when y'all did Congress. So that's when like everybody heard about the
yeah,
McCain.
yeah.
So, bro, I'll never like coming in thinking like, who are these cats, man? Like a whole family singing and playing. Like, what in the
Yeah,
world? But no, man, good times. It was different for me, man, because I was there interning in Maryland. I wasn't planning on staying.
right.
Um, I was planning on coming there for that year or for that summer and then heading right back to Maryland, or heading right back to Urshan. But man, I got there and just being at the church, being around Pastor Staten, it was undeniable by the end of the summer that that was where I was supposed to be.
Oh,
And it's incredible how God works, man, because I left Mississippi, got out of nursing school, right? So I was in nursing school, had finished one semester of clinicals. I had 3 semesters left. I would have been a registered nurse.
oh wow.
And God spoke to me right before that second semester and was like, hey, it's time to go. And so it was a very agonizing decision for me to leave nursing school and go to Urshan because man, my dad didn't really want it at the time. My pastor was, and they were both got their blessing, but it wasn't what they wanted. They were just saying, if this is what you feel, you can do it. But just leaving home, Mississippi was a big step, and then going to Urshan.
Yeah.
But then getting to Urshan and then say, you know what, psych, like
Yeah.
that's what it felt like. It felt like
Yeah,
God
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, psych, hey,
Yeah.
actually, I want you to go to Maryland.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was just like, what?
Yeah, it's like a
But man,
detour.
yeah, but it was literally Urshan was the way for me to get to Maryland.
Yeah.
And everything, and I needed all the stuff. I needed all the stops. I needed what I got at Urshan. So, like you
Right.
said, it was a detour, but a
Yeah.
necessary detour because I
Right.
wouldn't be where I am without that detour. So, man, stopped there and came to Maryland, and it's been the greatest decision I've ever made, bro. With the
Wow.
help of God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's changed my life. I can't imagine being anywhere else and having a pastor that was as on board with me doing my first recording as Pastor Staten. And he
Right.
didn't. The thing about it is, I don't think he really understood what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Like it's just like recording, And I remember thinking, like, man, I don't even know if people show up because I don't think people understood what it actually was. It's
Hmm.
just like it was such a foreign concept for our church and for
Yeah, yeah.
I think even the district, it was just like, okay, so
Yeah.
you're gonna like record, like this isn't a concert. It's like,
You're
no,
right, right. Yeah.
this is a recording. So we're
Yeah.
gonna record these songs and like release them later. It's just kind of like, okay, like you kind of got the feel from people like, okay, so why should I show up?
Right, right.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, trust me. Like I remember
Yeah.
telling, trust me, no, you
Yeah.
want to be there. It's gonna be good. Like,
Wow.
but man, I mean, they just got behind me and supported me, and then I think once everyone was there at the recording the night of, they're like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, I
Glad I
get it,
came.
But
Yeah.
yeah, glad I was here. But no, man, Maryland was, it's been amazing. It's
That's
been
great.
amazing.
So I remember 2000 around 2014, it felt like you had done so much work to get the music department, like you were training musicians, training singers, and you guys even released a single called Forward in Faith in
Yeah.
2014. What was that like, being able to like really sow into their ministry to kind of like they could already sing and stuff, but you kind of elevated them and brought them, to a higher place?
It was probably one of the most rewarding things, one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but very rewarding, man, because you know, when you could invest in someone and they succeed, I don't know that there's anything more rewarding than that. I think it's in a way even more rewarding than you yourself being successful when you
Yeah.
can pour into someone. So it was cool, man. I learned a lot about how to train and motivate, and that's what it was. You know, it was a lot of motivating and training and getting them to believe that they could do it. You
Right,
know,
right.
um, and just, you know, like Eric Sylvia, who is a really solid drummer now. Like, I'll never forget teaching Eric how to play drums
Yeah,
and thinking this boy will never be good. Like, he was horrible.
yeah.
Like, when I say this cat was, I mean, like, trash. I mean, horrible. And I just remember thinking, like, he just doesn't have it. Like, he'll never get there.
Mhm.
And man, he just worked hard. We stuck with it. And then one day it just clicked, bro. I mean, just out of nowhere, just boom. And
Yeah,
the dude was just killing. You know, he's such a solid drummer now, you
yeah,
know. And so it was a process, man, of just believing in people and pushing people, motivating people, spending a lot of time.
oh
I
yeah,
spent a ton. I mean, there's no shortcuts to training people, man. I
right,
spent hours and hours and training, you know, training Maddie and training Eric and training some of these. And the cool thing, they were all teenagers, kids,
right.
basically, you know. So
Hmm.
they had time, I had time. That was my job. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we just worked really hard, and I think God really helped us to be able to really take the team to the next level. But I definitely could not have done it without their willingness. They were willing to do whatever I said, and then Pastor Staten was behind me 100%. So it was a special time, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that had to be rewarding because you definitely sold and put in the time and effort. So
Yeah.
around 2016, I remember specifically, I think it was Periscope. You remember Periscope? I think
Oh yeah.
you were on there and you were talking about, like, you were really being passionate about apostolic writers, songwriters writing life music, and just
Yep.
saying, we have songs that we sing in church, but we also need to have songs that we sing that help us through our throughout our daily life. Then you released the song Home around that time, and that definitely went directly with what you were talking about. But then about the next year, I feel like you started to have the burden. Okay, we're singing everybody else's songs. Why don't we have, like, adequate songs that are apostolic songs that we can sing? And then out of that, I believe, was birthed the recording that you talked about for songs for the church. So talk about, like, both of those burdens, because they're definitely needed in the church. So first, the burden for apostolic life music, and then the burden for apostolic church songs.
Yeah, I think both are important, man, because the truth of the matter is sometimes you don't want to go into deep worship. Sometimes
Right,
you just
right.
want you want music to listen to when you're riding down the road in your car. And honestly, you know, live music can minister to you in a way that worship music can't, right? Because worship music is vertical, right?
Right.
You're talking to God, you're worshiping God, you're adoring God. But live music is different because really, in a way, you're talking about each other, right? I'm talking about what I'm going through. I'm talking about, it's just a lot more. It can specifically minister to you versus ministering to God. So I think both are very important. And, you know, I think a person who's incredible at this is obviously, you know, and he's kind of even pinned, pinned the I guess the phrase, but you know, John McReynolds with
Oh
life,
yeah. Yeah.
you know, the life room or whatever he calls it. But I mean, it's the same concept, you know, it's life music. It's
Right.
helping you with um just everyday life type stuff. And man, those songs have ministered to me in ways that worship music could not, you know. And
Exactly.
so I
Yeah.
think it's very important. And I think for our apostolic artists, we have so many that are capable of it, but just never really believed that they could. And you know, that segues me into just the Songs for the Church album, I was kind of on the live music train. Like that's kind of, I guess that's where I did a lot of live music type stuff for a long time. Like I wasn't really trying to do worship music or church music. I
Yeah.
was really writing live music type songs. But I was in a prayer meeting in the church by myself. I'll never forget it. Just personal prayer time in either late 2016, early 2017, somewhere around that time. And God spoke to me very clearly, man. And I don't say that nonchalantly. I say that very, God spoke to me and said, James, I want you to write songs for the church, just like that.
Wow.
And he said, if it's not songs that people can do in church, I don't want you to write them right now. I don't want live music. Like I want you to write songs that people can do in church, that people can worship with and that people will do. And so that was a year and a half, 2 years before I actually recorded, because I was in 2016, I think, or 2017. And then I didn't record Songs for the Church until 2018, and then we didn't release until 2019. So
Right.
it was a while in the making, but again, I received just a very direct word from God about it. And that's one thing that I really try to preach to people, talk to people about is, man, when you're doing this music thing, especially Christian music, gospel music, be spirit led, because the timing, the success of the Songs for the Church album was so predicated on the timing of its releases.
Yeah.
And bro, like God just set the whole thing. Like, I've had people come to me and say, James, man, just the way you marketed the album, so genius, you're so smart. And I'm sitting there thinking, bro, I've learned things now. I've learned, but I was just doing what I felt. And I was just moving when I felt it, and doing it, when I felt led from God to do it. And it's just kind of like everything just kind of happened, and it was what it was.
Right.
So, I think it was, and kind of back to your point, I think it was a moment where God allowed me to be used to help. And I'm not saying I'm the only one, certainly not saying that, but help to kind of shatter a glass ceiling that might have been over apostolic musicians, singers, songwriters, to help us realize, and it's not about, about us. I don't want to make it seem like, but to a certain extent, if I can say it this way, apostolic musicians and songwriters, the quality of things hasn't been, up to par.
Right.
I think everyone can be honest and say that. So it's not even about us being better than, or it's just about, hey man, like for us, like we want to do better. And I feel like God helped me to be a part, not the sole reason, but a part of helping to shatter a ceiling that's kind of over, that was over us. And I feel like right now, man, we are just in a place that's just, it's crazy right now, the stuff, because I've been behind the scenes on quite a few projects, and it's just crazy, the stuff that's about to come out, man.
Yeah.
Like it's mind blowing. And so that's how that whole thing it was a God thing. The only way I can say it is that, it was a God thing. It was a miracle. Financially, it was a miracle. Just logistically, it was a miracle. There's just so much about it. I could talk for a long time about it, but I think God used it to just help us in that area as apostolic musicians and songwriters. So Yeah, I know I kind of rambled there, but hopefully that kind of
No. I
answered
appreciate that.
your question.
Yeah, that's great. So when in I think it was February 2019, you released the lead single from the project, "Wait on the Lord," and it was a huge success. I believe it went #1 on Billboard, right? So
Yeah.
that right there in and of itself was shattering that proverbial glass ceiling. But the interesting thing about "Wait on the Lord," you guys did record it at Urshan, right?
So Urshan recorded it. I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
So the interesting thing about Wait on the Lord is, long story short, so I sent Wait on the Lord to Kevin Howard. For those who don't know who Kevin Howard is, he's like an OG in the apostolic movement for just incredible musician, singer, songwriter. So our musician and songwriter. So I sent it to Kevin because he was doing like a conference where they were wanting to feature original apostolic music. I sent it to him just kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
He heard it. He said, "Man, this is crazy. Like, why don't you come to this conference and do this song? Teach it, do it, whatever." Ended up not being able to make the conference. So he said, "That's okay." He said, "We'll just have Natalie Bunner sing the song." So Natalie sang it the night of. And what a lot of people don't know is the part of the song that everybody loves, I didn't write. The hook, the "I'm gonna wait on you, Jesus, I'm gonna wait on you." Natalie improvised, like spontaneous, like God gave that to her spontaneously.
Wow.
The night that the very first night "Wait on the Lord" was ever sung, like ever. She spontaneously sang it just the way that you're hearing it. I mean, it's just, I still have the recording, and I like when I listen to it, bro, it's incredible because God gave that to her.
Right.
And so, long story short, Laura Payne, who was at Urshan as the dean of music or whatever, she's a part of the Heart of Worship team. She was there. She heard the song. She loved it. So they contacted me and said, "Hey, can we record the song?"
Okay.
And so I said, "Sure." You know, I knew I was going to eventually record it, but I kind of had a vision in mind for it, and I didn't think we would step on each other's toes there, you know. Right. So I let them record it, and then, you know, a year or so later, a few months later, then I recorded it. So
Okay. So being that you had already seen like a powerful move of God with the song, did you in any way anticipate the type of success that it had, because it like crossed outside of apostolic circles and stuff like that? Did you anticipate any of that?
If I can say it without being arrogant, without it sounding arrogant,
Yeah.
I did, bro. I really did, and I don't say that in an arrogant way, man. But it was such a move of God at the recording.
Right.
Like it's one of those moments, man, you wish you could relive over. If I could relive it, you know, I'll relive it over and over again. It was such a tangible, powerful move of God that I really thought. Now, to what extent? I think that was the thing. To what extent? I don't think we really knew, but I think we knew. Okay, God has given us something really special with this song. Let's see what it will do. And so when it started, you know, going, I didn't expect Billboard #1. No, that stuff I didn't know. I didn't expect that. No. But just, you know, the song is still spreading, man. Like I will get, you know, I got a message, and I'm not gonna name drop because that's tacky, but I got a message from someone who we all would know, and they like a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they said they had just heard the song.
Wow.
And it's just like, dude, it's crazy because it's been 2 years and the song is still kind of reaching out. So to that extent, no, I didn't think 2 years from now the song would still have life and still be ministering to people. No, I really didn't, man.
Yeah, that's the hand of God for sure. I was gonna say, before you said it was tacky, I've seen some names on your page. If you don't mind, I would say the name, but they're like the biggest gospel artists are like they have listened to your music and enjoyed it and like they
Yeah.
follow you, they're excited for what's to come. And I think that that's such an incredible thing, because you talked about shattering the glass ceiling. That would not have happened a few years ago, but it's incredible to see what God is doing in this day and time through apostolic music, apostolic writers, and there's a shift that's happening, and I'm so glad to see that God has used you to kind of like spearhead that. So this past year 2020, we were talking about how, you know, it was a rough year for most people, but you still were able to do a live recording, Songs for the Nations. And I remember when I first heard the title of the recording, I was like, okay, you're going to another level of Songs for the Church, now Songs for the Nations. So can you talk about the vision for that recording and what the experience was like doing that in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, man. There again, I try to be, I don't want to make it sound like I walk around on, you know, with my head in the clouds and that I ain't human and God doesn't ever have a hard time getting through to me because I'm human and he does. But man, with stuff like this, I just try to be spirit led. And I told God after the Songs for the Church recording, I said, God, that was you. Like, and I don't want to do it any other way. I don't want to do another recording just because, all right, it's 2 years. Like, it's time. Like, let's just do another one, because that's what you do. So ever since, you know, the Songs for the Church, I've been praying, God, let me know when. And ideally, what I wanted to do was do a recording around February of 2021 and release this year, but it was July 2020, man. And we were kind of, as a nation, I guess it was kind of subsiding a little bit. We were still pretty in the heat of a lot of the racial tension and all that junk that was going on.
Yeah.
And bro, God spoke to me and said, I want you to do this recording. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, we're in the midst of a pandemic. How are we going to get people together? Are we going to be able to get people together? Is there going to be a huge COVID outbreak?
Yeah.
And then there's bad PR, just all this stuff. Bro, I know when God speaks to me, and I know what he spoke to me. And I just felt like I needed to. So that was like mid-July. We had the recording like, I think the 3rd of September. So it was like a month and a half.
Wow.
Of time to get ready. I had 3 songs written. Didn't know.
Oh wow.
Didn't know.
Oh wow.
Did not know what I was gonna do. And so in a month and a half, bro, once I took that initial step, contacted the team and let everyone just was free, which was crazy.
Yep.
Everyone was free. And everyone was down. Like, and then I got in touch with Brother Carpenter and their church, and they were down. And it was just like, okay, there's something to this. For all of this to be, I mean, the stars, there was just so much that had to come together so fast.
So fast.
You know, if we had months, okay, but like so much had to come. And I had a specific date, like God gave me, like, it's like, Lord, in a month and a half, I don't have the songs. But bro, when I tell you, God just like poured it on, he poured it on and just worked all that out. And the whole vision behind the project, and which is why I think God spoke to me, man, is, you know, the mantra of the project is, in a world in a time where people have attempted to divide us, there's a song that unites us, and it's the song of the redeemed. And that's what I just felt so strongly, because, you know, the Bible says in the last days, you know, nation is going to be turned against nation. And, you know, a lot of people have heard this because I think Victor Jackson, several others have said it so people see it. But that doesn't mean just, you know, Africa against China, right? That's literally ethnicity against ethnicity. You know, people of different ethnic backgrounds. There's going to be a racial tension. And so songs have always been a healing salve that has brought people together, and not only just a song, but the song of the redeemed. People identifying that Jesus Christ has changed my life has always had a way of uniting people in spite of their backgrounds, in spite of their differences. And here's the thing about it. We may see things completely differently, but we can still be united because of the banner of Christ. And bro, I just felt so strongly, you know, that overarching theme and just all of that God was trying to do. And so, I mean, the night of the recording was powerful, man. It was all of these people, right, come together in the midst of a pandemic. Right?
Yeah.
And you know, and so many different people, different ethnicities and colors and creeds, and just, man, just coming together under the banner of it was beautiful. And to me, I think for everyone that was there, it was such a breath of fresh air because of the pandemic and because of the racial tension, because it's just like it showed people. And the church isn't always perfect. We don't always get it right in this area. There are racist people in the church. There are
Right.
people that have problems in the church. But the church can be and should be a place to where it is in complete contrast to what the, because here's what I believe. I believe in the last days, nation will be turning against nation. If you think racial tension is going to get better, let me tell you guys something. I don't think that's biblical.
It's
I
not,
think
yeah.
it might get worse.
Yeah.
But here's what I believe. I don't believe the church has to be, I don't believe the church has to get sucked into that. I believe people can look at the church and be like, yo, like this group of people and this group of people are getting along. Like what are they doing? Like for them to get along? Like, because outside of the church, people just ain't getting along right now. You know what I'm saying? But there's something about these people. They're just they're just doing it. And so that was the whole vision. That was the whole heart behind it, man. And I think God just helped us to accomplish that. And then the songs themselves are just a diversity of genres. And I mean, we got some, like the new single that's coming out, He Name I Told, starts out in Hebrew, goes to English, and just has kind of like it's a whole fusion of different genres, like Latin and Hebrew, and just, so the whole album is kind of a reflection of the vision. And so anyways, that's kind of an overarching kind of idea of songs for the nations.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear that. That's definitely going to reach the nations like God gave you the vision for. So
Yeah.
aside from being an incredible artist and songwriter, singer, and all that, and musician, you're also a preacher. And I believe that's a part of you going full-time in ministry, not just to go and sing places, but to preach. When did you when did you receive the call to preach initially?
So my pastor was one of those pastors that you know, he didn't force preaching on me, but I think he knew before I knew that God had called me to preach. And so he would have me testify, right, at 12 or 13, right. I'm just sitting there thinking, this dude thinks I'm gonna be a preacher. He's got another thing coming. Because I knew the price that you have to pay to be a pastor and a preacher and be in ministry is sometimes a steep price you have to pay to do this. And I didn't want it. I would have much rather have been a saint and be on the pew, like be a musician, like just like, bro, that's what I wanted to do. But about 16, God just got a hold of me, man. And I don't know if it was a specific service or moment. I don't think I can trace it back to a specific service or moment, but around 16, God just made it really clear to me that I was called to preach. And so from 16 on, I pursued it. Yeah, that's kind of the story.
That's great. And also, recently you got engaged, which I think for the majority of the public, that was like a big surprise, because being that you're such in the public eye, nobody had a clue.
Yeah.
So talk about, having a relationship that's kind of not in the public eye, under wraps, and, God's timing and everything like that. like everything that, encapsulates that relationship.
Yeah, man. Well, like you said, I'm engaged to Carly Mooney. She's an incredible woman, man. And I met Carly at Youth Congress in 2019. And for me, for us, um, I just, from the jump, I told her, Carly, listen, because I'm in ministry and God has given me a platform. Um, I don't I don't feel that I have the same luxury as maybe some do to just appear as if I'm just getting in and out of relationships. And
Right, right.
that's no knock on anyone. The moment they start dating someone, they start posting pictures.
Yeah,
there's no judgment. There's not a sin. That's not a sin.
yeah,
I
yeah,
have zero judgment for people that do that. But for me, it was just kind of a wisdom thing of
yeah,
just, hey, let's see where this goes. And I told her, I was like, I don't want us to post until engagement. Like, because at that point you're sure, right? At that point
right,
you're
yeah.
you're you're committing to do this thing. And so
Hmm.
for me, it was all about us, number one, man, just truly allowing the relationship to grow and flourish without the scrutiny of the public eye and public opinion. And because people don't really matter, the people who needed to know knew, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
we weren't hiding it. It
Hmm.
wasn't a secret, but it was private. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And so
yep,
that's
yep.
what I tell people. Down where she lives, I mean, we went to several conferences together. It wasn't like we were hiding it, but I just wasn't going to post on social media, just simply because I felt like it was wise not to. Because had something not worked out, you know, then
Yep,
you got to go back on your social media and delete all your pictures
yep,
and do
yep.
all this stuff. And it's just like, were you guys really in love in the first place?
Right, right,
It's
yeah.
all
Too much
that stuff,
scrutiny.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's no need to do that. It literally has no, whether you post or not, has no effect on your relationship.
right,
So
right, right.
why even open the door? So that was our mentality. And man, I think it was a great decision because we got to just do our thing and enjoy each other and get to know each other, and without feeling pressure,
Right,
because
right.
I don't do well under pressure, man, especially with relationships. I don't want to feel like I have to be with someone. I want to know that I'm with someone because that's who I really want to be with and who God is, brought into my life. And so that was kind of the mentality behind it. We didn't do it for shock factor, although
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
pretty funny, man. Just
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
everyone just kind of not expected. That was hilarious. But
yeah.
no, it was just a wisdom thing for us, bro. We just felt like it was wise to just keep it to ourselves. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I totally understand and agree with that. So now that you have this platform that God has given you and you're in the public eye, there are a lot of younger people that look up to you and want to be, do what you do and be in the position that you're in. What would be your advice for younger ministers or people that are going into ministry?
man, my advice is, and I was talking with someone about this the other day, um, work on the things that nobody else can see. Um, you know, obviously it goes without saying, um, you got to work. If you're called to preach, you need to be in your word. You need to be studying, not only studying the word, but I think you need to um, study preachers and study what makes them good, and what, obviously there's a part of this that you can't learn. It's the anointing, right? But
Right.
you still need to study, the craft of preaching and then songwriting and music. Music, same thing. You got to study. But then in addition to that, I would say character,
Right.
right? Working on your character. That is the hardest thing we will ever do, is to be men and women of character. Because guess what? The truth of the matter is, Everybody's got skeletons in their closet.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a side of them that they don't want nobody else to see.
Right.
Everybody's got things in their life that they don't want in that they rather people not know about. We've all done things. And so the biggest challenge you will have in ministry, one of the biggest challenges you will have in ministry is simply maintaining your character, being the same person on stage as you are off the stage, being the same person in private as you are in public. And man, I was telling someone the other day, like, even in this season for me, I've gone through a season where I'm just like checking myself and just saying like, yo, if I'm slipping up in an area, like, God, I need you to help me, because it's, if it's kind of one of those things, if you characters is something that has to be constantly maintained, and if you have small character lapses, but you fix them, you can keep yourself from having the big character lapses, which will ultimately destroy you, right? It's kind of like going to the gym, bro. Like, if you quit going to the gym for one day, not gonna really be able to tell. But if you quit going to the gym for 2 months, oh man, you're gonna really be able to. So maintaining a physique, or maintaining, your jump shot or something, like, it's a constant thing. Like, you have to do it day in and day out. You have to maintain it. You have to but it's easier to maintain it than it is, I ain't shot a jumper in 6 months and now my shot is whack. Or I hadn't been to the gym in 6 months and now I'm really sore because I hadn't lifted in 6 months. So your character, I think, is the same way. If you're constantly working at it and constantly trying to strive to be completely genuine and completely the same person in and out of the public eye, I think you will ultimately experience, success and sustainability. Because here's the thing, I think character lapses and people just making mistakes and doing things, I think that destroys more people than just about anything. And it's so crazy. I was talking to my manager, Ray, about this, because it's decisions, right? Like, decisions, man. The crazy thing about where I'm at right now is I'm 30 years old. I've worked 30 years of my life, blood, sweat, and tears. Really 18 years, since I was 12 to get where I'm at right now. But in one moment,
it could all be gone.
One moment, I can destroy everything. And it's just like, when you think about that, it's like, whew. Like, and so that's my biggest advice to young men and young women is, hey, just like that character stuff, it's the thing we often think about last, because it's not shiny. Right? It's not shiny, bro. It's not the thing that, like, we think about. But if you do not work on that, I don't care how talented you are, you'll self-destruct. You'll destroy yourself. And that's everybody. That is myself. I could lose it all tomorrow. I am human, know? And so I think that's the biggest advice I would have to young men and young women aspiring to be in ministry or just do anything in life. That character thing is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's sound advice, because like you said, it's really crazy how you could work all your life to kind of, present yourself in a good way and to have good character. And then in one weak moment, everything could be gone. It's really crazy how that works. But that's amazing advice, man. I thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a whole lot going on, but I really appreciate you doing this interview. I know it's going to bless a whole lot of people. So thank you once again to James Wilson. Make sure by the time this airs, his new single will be out. Can you tell them the name of the single? I know it, but I can't pronounce it right. Not yet.
He named my toe.
He named my toe.
Not he named my toe. A lot of people cracking out there saying he named my toe. No, he named my toe. Hebrew.
Yeah. All right. So by the time this comes out, I hope everyone has already bought the single, enjoying it, and I believe it's going to do great things. So like I always say at the end of these episodes, only what you do for Christ will last. Take it one day at a time and keep it pushing. God bless you. This is another episode of the Interlude with Drew. Until next time.
It's the Interlude with Drew. It's the Interlude with Drew.
Welcome to the Interlude with Drew.